Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be going over the top 5 offlaners, ranked from number 1 to number 5, of the best late game offlaners, the heroes that perform when it hits the 45-minute mark and absolutely take over the game from the position 3 role. So if you're excited for today's video, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I think offlane is the last of the roles that I have yet to cover. Did I do position 4 or position 5? Did I not do position? I don't know. You guys are going to have to remind me. You guys know better than I do. But alright, let's get into it. By the way, guys, if you want to become absolutely broken, well, what you need to do is sign up to the gameleap website down below right now. The reason why you should do that is because every single day we post a new video there. Content that you simply just will never get on YouTube, we post every single day to the website. It's really top tier stuff. I'm very proud of what I make over there. We also have other creators, many of my great friends who are top tier Dota players, creating guides about different heroes, different roles, different items, skill builds, talent builds, everything you need to know to get to the next rank. So if you feel a little bit lost, you're a little bit stuck, click the link down below. I'll see you guys there. And now let's get into the video. Alright, starting off, I want to give 3 honorable mentions before I hit into the offlane list. Honestly, a lot of offlaners don't actually scale that well into the late game. It's not that they can't, they definitely can, but I really only had 8 main heroes that I really want to talk about. And yeah, here's 3 of them for honorable mentions. And yes, these heroes actually could be argued as like the best late game heroes, but let's get into it. Okay, number 1 on the honorable mentions is Nature's Prophet. You know, it's just like, you scale well, you farm really fast, and then you get to 2.5 times treants. I'm not even gonna go too much into it. I've talked about this a million times on the channel. You buy a shard, you spawn treants, and they do all the ratting you need. You can shove lanes with no threat to your own hero. And in the late game, as you get better and better, what you guys will understand more and more is that, like, a big part of being a good late game hero is actually your ability to shove waves without putting yourself in a dangerous position. And of course, that's not the only thing, but it really, really helps to have a hero on your team that can, you know, push in the mid lane without putting his real hero there, because if you don't have that in late game, all that it takes to like lose a fight in the late game is just someone getting jumped, right? The game becomes very, very fast paced. Dota becomes very bursty, right? People die very, very quickly, I guess. You know, freaking Andisk gets in the game. But okay, the second honorable mention is Tidehunter. He has really good talents in the late game. You know, you might be expecting me to just say like Refresher on Ravage, and yeah, that's a fair point. But honestly, the bigger part of this hero that makes him good is his 200 damage talent, and the fact that he can buy a Satanic, and buy a Deso, and buy a Shard, and be a frontline tank that does a lot of right-click damage. You can also buy a Daedalus, and then you can literally crit for like 1,000 something. It's extremely strong in the late game, like, it's no joke. You buy BKB, you have like BKB, bots, Deso, Daedalus, and a Refresher if you have enough mana for it, and you actually are just extremely useful. And finally, for the honorable mentions is Pango. Kind of similar to Tide, you can scale as a right clicker, you farm very quickly, you are actually good at shoving waves quite safely due to your level 10 talent. Yes, your level 10 swashbuckle range talent. And yeah, you just chain stun people. You also just man up well. Satanic is also another great option. On Pango, it works with the swashbuckle, heals you up, and you can also go a magic build if you want to. You can go like a Shiva's Refresher build in late game, double roll. Just like, what is it, 16 seconds a roll? So, I mean, 26 seconds a roll. Pretty freaking insane what you can do in the late game with this hero, and on a very low cooldown. So yeah, just want to put that hero on the list. But now let's get into the 5 best ones. Starting off at number 5 is Axe. Axe for me is just so potent because of really Shard. And it's funny, it's like Shard, it's something you can get at the 20-minute mark. Well, yeah, that's why this hero is largely very popular right now. You know, the fact that something that is so good at the 20-minute mark is also so good in the late game just makes this hero incredibly powerful. I mean, it's really the fact that it does pure damage. You know, you can't buy AC to counter it. You can't buy Shiva. Well, I guess Shiva sort of counters it because of attack speed. You know, I guess you can buy attack speed to counter it. But you can't buy BKB to counter it. It doesn't work. You can't buy armor. So Axe just scales well, you know, pure damage in the late game that you chop through. You also go through BKBs. I mean, you can't really ask for something much better in the late game, right? Axe picks up an Abyssal Blade, an AC Moonshard, an Axe. You call someone up in the late game if they don't have like a Sanjin Yasha. More often than not, you're bursting through them. You're killing them, especially if you have a Blade Mail against the right matchups in the late game. It becomes very hard for people to play the game. And so, yeah, Axe definitely has to be on this list. And as I was talking about, having the ability to shove the waves without a threat in the late game. Number 1, Axe with Illusionist Cape, incredibly good. A lot of illusion heroes are, but Axe is definitely one of them, even as an offlaner. So if you're safe laner, let's say is a Drow, which is not like the best illusionist cape hero in the game, you can instead give it to your Axe, and he can shove weaves extremely easily with that, and of course, just your Manta style. Next up on the list, coming in at number 4, is Darkseer. The biggest advantage to Darks here, in my opinion, in the late game, number one is of course the Wall of Replica, just creating an illusion of some hero that does 500 damage, some Morphling, some TB, is good in and of itself, right? I don't really have to talk about that too much. But then you have Normal Punch, your Aghanim Shard. You punch that person, not only do you make an illusion with the Wall of Replica, but you punch them, and then you have two illusions, and they're stunned. And then you can stun them again with Vacuum, right? It is technically a stun when they're getting pulled in towards the center of the vacuum. So you actually have quite a bit of disable. You can combine this all with a Refresher Orb and make a ton of illusions of everyone. And you pull them all together, which is extremely good in the late game. Vacuum is ridiculously good in the late game for the fact that people have very short BKBs, right? So you can easily bring them together. And if you can group people together and you hit a good stun, have some sort of like, you know, Black Hole or Ravage or anything like that, or, you know, even if it's just a Curse or an Earth Spiker and Nick stun, a Cogs, a Sand King, whatever it is, right? If you combine that in the late game and you hit that stun, some follow-up from some sort of carry is probably going to kill them. But another thing to note is the Ags. Yes, the Ags, especially if you end up getting like an Octarine Core at some point in the late game, basically you just shove waves infinitely. You could be trapped in your fountain, and yet you can shove the enemy team's waves all the way into their base, literally, and that's literally, I mean, all you gotta do is make a creep have 300 more HP and do 1,000,000 damage per second. Because keep in mind, you have an Ion Shell Radius talent at level 10, which I generally recommend taking, and you have a 60 damage extra on Ion Shell per second at level 20. And then you buy an Axe, and you have 2 of them, and an Octarine, and maybe a Spell Prism. And yeah, you just like shove all the waves constantly. It really is that good. Like, I cannot stress enough how important it is because it takes over the vision game, right? Let's say you want a Roche. You need a little bit of wave controller. You want someone to show top before you Roche. Put some shells on. It's literally 0 committal. It's no committal. Like, I wouldn't say it's necessarily as good as Treants, but it's definitely lower cooldown than Treants and much easier to use. Coming in at number 3 on the list is a hero I debated putting this high, but technically I know you guys were definitely gonna freak out if I didn't put Legion high up there, and it's just like, you know, it's duel, right? You buy an Ags, you duel people with like 1,000 damage and a bunch of attack speed, you know, and it kills them. On top of that, to be fair, press the attack AoE with the shard is also freaking nutty. You know, that it's really, really good. You know, just when everyone goes spell immune, it's really good. So there's that as well. This hero is definitely a late game menace. The thing is, it doesn't have like the team fight that typically like dominates the late game. You know, if you look at the other heroes on this list, it's typically gonna have heroes that have like really hardcore disables. To be fair, Duel sort of is that. You know, a lot of Lincolns and Aeon Discs come out in the late game, but honestly, when you have Ags, more often than not, you have some hero that can pop Lincolns. Aeon Disc is not actually that good of a counter into the late game. It does quite a bit, but you can often get through it, and at that point in the game, you have enough items where you're just a good right-clicker in general. And so for the pure fact that press the attack AoE is extremely good, Moment of Courage can let you man up and easily win duels, and the fact that you might crit for like 2,000 something damage at some point in the game, if you go that route, makes Legion Commander a good option for the late game. Coming in at number 2, we have Doom! Just Doom him. Is there anything I have to say? His shard's actually really good. The Infernal Blade extra stun thingy in the late game, considering like once they hit whatever level, like it's like level 24, they get stunned extra by Infernal Blade when you buy the shard. It's really good in the late game too. So you actually have like chain stun, like super chain stun. You can take a Centaur, right? Chain stun him with the Infernal Blade plus Centaur. It's quite good. So you have a stun, like 3 seconds, 4 seconds to stun, and 2 dooms. That's kind of about it. I mean, you know, like if you doom 2 people in the late game, they're just doomed. I mean, like, I'd love to make this more complex than it is. Infernal Blade does percentage-based damage, huh? That's pretty good. Devourer is not necessarily good in the late game. Scorched Earth is mediocre, but his ultimate is Doom. That's his ultimate. Okay, coming in, finally, and last but not least, the best offlaner is Enigma. Yeah, I mean, it's just Enigma. There's really nothing in the game, in my opinion, that really beats Black Hole, BKB Black Hole with an Axe and a Shard. It's incredibly hard to play against. I mean, literally a solo Black Hole with an Axe nearly solo kills people. Like, you can just solo kill a carry pretty easily. If you Midnight Pulse and then Black Hole them, a lot of the time they just die. And you have 2 of them. And that's kind of how it goes. In fact, a lot of the time you have 3 of them because of Roshan, right? And so, like, Enigma, a hero that often can't really afford to buy the Ags because he doesn't take farm priority in a lot of games, and Eidolons are just, like, sort of mediocre at farming compared to other spells in the late game, compared to, like, you know, Ion Shell and stuff like that. it doesn't matter because like if it goes really, really late, 50, 60, 70 minutes, you're going to have Roshans, you're going to have, an Aghanim Scepter, an Ag's Blessing from Roshan, a Refresher Shard from Roshan, you're going to have 3 black holes that do like 3k pure damage, and it's just like, there's just no contesting it. I mean, BKBs go out the window, you can't buy Lincolns, and Disc is your best option, as per usual. Disgusting item. But even then, if you have 2 of them, Disc is not going to do enough, right? Because it's not like the status resist that Disc, would counter, let's say, a Ravage with. It doesn't work against Black Hole as well, so even Disc, in some regards, is actually countered by Black Hole. It's just Black Hole. The only counter to it in the game is, I don't even think Wind Waker works, is like Astrals and stuff like that, or like a False Promise, sort of. So yeah, and also to be fair, on the note of being able to shove waves safely without putting yourself in any danger, Eidolons are actually an extremely good option. They are, because in the late game you get all the Eidolon talents, and then you have a bunch of decently HP, high damage, and a ton of Eidolons that can split, and actually split push, and like take towers, so there's that. And you get the Malefice proc talent and the Midnight Pulse radius talent, and you just make the map very hard to play. It's very impossible for the enemy team to Roshan. If they group up at all, you can actually win the fight by yourself, and you split push quite well. And yeah, that's going to be all for today's video. If you guys disagree or agree with me on any of the heroes on the list, I'm more than happy to hear what you have to say. Obviously, this is my opinion and my ideas on what are the best offlaners to scale into the late game, and that's an important thing to note, considering pubs generally go into the late game. Nonetheless, keep split pushing, keep farming, my boys, and I'm out. Peace! And that's all, but remember, before you leave, before you tune out, subscribe to the gameleap website, where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace!